The Tigrinya language is more than just a method of communication. It is a living, breathing work of art that stretches across centuries of culture, resilience, and creativity. Every syllable, every phrase, and every story shared in Tigrinya carries with it echoes from an ancient past that still pulses with life today. Unlike many languages that fade quietly into the background of history, Tigrinya remains vibrant, colorful, and rich with emotional depth, offering its speakers and listeners alike a direct connection to their heritage. The beauty of Tigrinya lies in its complexity and its ability to express emotions in ways that are often untranslatable into other languages. A single Tigrinya word can hold layers of meaning, carrying within it stories, traditions, and emotions that extend far beyond the immediate conversation. The proverbs and sayings passed down through generations are a prime example of this beauty. In Tigrinya, a simple proverb about patience, courage, or humility can deliver wisdom that touches the soul and guides daily life. These proverbs are not just linguistic decorations. They are blueprints for living, teaching values, and offering comfort in ways no textbook ever could. There is a musicality to the language, a rhythm and cadence that gives every conversation a poetic quality. Whether spoken softly between two friends sharing secrets under a fig tree, or shouted joyfully during festivals and weddings, Tigrinya has a way of wrapping listeners in its warmth. The sounds of the language are deeply tied to the land itself, the rolling hills, the dusty plains, the clear skies of Eritrea and northern Ethiopia. When one hears Tigrinya, it is almost as if one can hear the earth speaking too, telling stories of survival, joy, and unbreakable spirit. Another striking aspect of Tigrinya's beauty is its script. Written in Giez script, Tigrinya visually presents itself as a language of dignity and grace. Each character is elegant, flowing with a style that is both ancient and timeless. For many, seeing Tigrinya written out is like looking at a piece of living history, a reminder that literacy, storytelling, and intellectual pursuit have deep roots in the Horn of Africa. Learning to write in Tigrinya is not simply about mastering letters. It is about stepping into a proud tradition of poets, historians, philosophers, and everyday people who understood the power of the written word. The language, its ability to evolve and adapt over time, also adds to its beauty. Despite centuries of colonization, displacement, and conflict, Tigrinya has not only survived but thrived. It has absorbed words and ideas from other cultures when necessary, but never lost its core identity. This flexibility shows that Tigrinya is not just a relic of the past. It is a living, growing expression of the people who speak it. In the diaspora, Tigrinya finds new forms in poetry, music, literature, and even online communities, where young speakers blend traditional phrases with new world experiences, showing the language's timeless versatility. The emotional range that Tigrinya captures is another testament to its beauty. In Tigrinya, you can express profound sorrow with words that feel as heavy as a mountain, or you can share joy with phrases as light as the morning breeze. Love songs in Tigrinya carry a tenderness and depth that are both deeply personal and universally human. Even the way the language handles humor is special, full of clever wordplay, irony, and affection that reveal the sharp wit and kindness of its speakers. A joke in Tigrinya, perfectly delivered, is not just funny, it is an act of artful connection, a demonstration of cultural intelligence. Furthermore, Tigrinya is a language of community. Speaking Tigrinya is often an act of inclusion and belonging, drawing people together across generations and distances. It is common to hear elders telling young people stories in Tigrinya, stories that carry the weight of memory and tradition, passing down not only knowledge, but also identity. In exile, in refugee camps, in new homes halfway across the globe, Tigrinya speakers build invisible bridges back to their homeland through their language. It offers comfort, continuity, and an enduring sense of self. Finally, the beauty of Tigrinya is not only found in its past or its traditional forms, but also in its potential. Every time a young person chooses to learn Tigrinya, to speak it proudly, to sing it in new songs, or to write new stories in it, the language is renewed. Its beauty is not static, it is dynamic, always waiting for the next voice, the next generation, the next dreamer who will carry it forward. In this way, the beauty of Tigrinya is immortal. A flame passed from hand to hand, heart to heart, across time. In a world where many languages disappear each year, Tigrinya's continued strength is a rare and precious thing. It is a testament to the beauty of a language that refuses to fade, a language that continues to teach, to heal, to connect, and to inspire. In celebrating the beauty of Tigrinya, we are not only honoring a way of speaking, but embracing a way of seeing the world rich with meaning, memory, and endless hope. Language is more than a collection of words. It is the carrier of culture, the preserver of memory, and the protector of identity. Tigrinya, with its deep roots and rich history, is not just a tool for communication, it is a powerful anchor for identity. For every Tigrinya speaker, whether in the bustling markets of Asmara or in a small apartment across the ocean, the language serves as a reminder of where they come from and who they are. It carries the smell of the soil after rain, the sound of ancient songs sung around fires, and the unbreakable spirit of ancestors who endured and thrived. When we speak Tigrinya, we are doing more than exchanging information. We are standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. Every word carries a trace of those who first shaped the language, who whispered it to their children, who defended it in times of hardship, and who celebrated it in times of triumph. It becomes impossible to separate the language from the soul of the people who speak it. To know Tigrinya is to carry within oneself a map of belonging, a guide that says, you are part of a story that began long before you and will continue long after you. For people who have faced displacement, migration, or diaspora, language becomes even more critical. It becomes a bridge back to a homeland that may exist more vividly in the heart than in the daily surroundings. In far-off cities where life moves fast and cultural assimilation pulls strongly, speaking Tigrinya is an act of quiet resistance. It says, I remember who I am. It says, I honor where I come from. It says, I carry my people with me wherever I go. Language preserves more than customs. It preserves dignity. It allows even second or third generation descendants to look into the mirror and see the reflection of their roots smiling back at them. Tigrinya in particular is uniquely tied to strength because it has survived through periods of intense challenge. During times of colonization, political oppression, and war, it would have been easy for Tigrinya to be silenced. Instead, it persisted, passed from parent to child, from elder to youth, through stories, prayers, songs, and conversations. The strength of a people is found in the strength of their language, and Tigrinya is living proof of that resilience. Its continued use today is not simply an accident. It is a deliberate, courageous act of preservation. Moreover, language has the unique power to unify individuals across differences of age, geography, and even time. A young man born in Germany and an elderly woman living in a village outside of Karen might lead very different lives, but the moment they share a conversation in Tigrinya, a bond forms. They understand each other in ways that go far beyond words. Through language, culture is kept alive, rituals are passed down, values are taught and remembered. It is language that turns individuals into a people and turns memory into a living, breathing present. In families, Tigrinya often becomes the emotional language. It is the language of lullabies sung to babies, the language of blessings whispered to young couples on their wedding days, the language of mourning shared at funerals. It frames some of the most important moments in life, making them not only personal but culturally significant. This emotional anchoring gives Tigrinya speakers a deep well of strength to draw from. They know they are part of a tapestry that stretches back through time, woven with love, sacrifice, and hope. Even in today's globalized world where English, Arabic, and other languages dominate international conversations, the choice to continue speaking Tigrinya is a declaration that some things are too precious to lose. Identity cannot be bought or borrowed. It must be nurtured, protected, and celebrated. Every time someone writes a poem in Tigrinya, sings a song, tells a story, or even simply greets another in their mother tongue, they are breathing life into an identity that would otherwise be at risk of fading away. Tigrinya gives its speakers more than just a way to talk. It gives them a way to belong. It connects the heart to the homeland, the present to the past, and the individual to the community. Through language, a young child growing up far from Eritrea can know what it means to be Eritrean. Through language, an elder can pass down not only wisdom but pride. Through language, a people can remain strong, rooted, and radiant, no matter where life takes them. The strength of identity through language is not theoretical. It is visible every day in the smiles of grandparents speaking to their grandchildren, in the songs that travel across oceans, and in the quiet prayers offered in Tigrinya by those who refuse to forget. It is in every word, every memory, and every dream spoken aloud. In the heart of Tigrinya, there lives an eternal flame of identity, bright, unwavering, and beautiful. The global stage has often been dominated by a few powerful languages and cultures, but history has taught us that true influence is not always measured by numbers or noise. Sometimes it is the quiet, steady voices of a people rooted in tradition and rich in spirit that leave the most lasting impact. The story of Tigrinya speakers around the world is exactly that, a testament to the idea that even a relatively small linguistic community can shape the world in ways that are profound, far-reaching, and deeply inspiring. Tigrinya speakers, wherever they go, carry with them not just a language, but a whole world. They bring resilience, creativity, hospitality, and a fierce sense of identity that often radiates far beyond their immediate surroundings. Whether in the bustling immigrant neighborhoods of North America, the evolving cities of Europe, the growing communities in the Middle East, or even scattered villages in Africa, the presence of Tigrinya speakers has left indelible marks on education, culture, business, and political life. One of the most powerful examples of global influence is seen in the diaspora communities that have bloomed over the past several decades. Forced by war, economic hardship, or the pursuit of better opportunities, many Tigrinya speakers made the courageous decision to leave their homelands behind. But they did not leave behind who they were. Instead, they carried their language, their culture, and their values with them like a torch, lighting the way in new land. They built churches and mosques, opened small businesses, founded community centers, organized cultural festivals, and taught their children to speak the language of their ancestors, even as they adapted to new tongues and new customs. In cities like Toronto, Stockholm, Melbourne, and Washington, D.C., the fingerprints of Tigrinya-speak communities can be found on the cultural landscape. Festivals featuring Tigrinya music and dance draw thousands. Restaurants serving traditional foods introduce new palates to the flavors of the highlands. Writers, musicians, and artists expressing themselves in Tigrinya tell stories that challenge stereotypes, broaden understanding, and enrich the multicultural tapestries of their adopted homes. These contributions are not only about preserving heritage, they are about sharing it, teaching it, and showing the beauty and strength of a culture that has so much to offer. Beyond culture, the global influence of Tigrinya speakers extends into the realms of advocacy and leadership. Around the world, Tigrinya speakers have been at the forefront of human rights campaigns, peace-building efforts, and community development projects. They have used their voices, often in both Tigrinya and other languages, to advocate for justice, to demand dignity for refugees, and to build bridges between cultures. Whether as local organizers, political leaders, scholars, or entrepreneurs, many Tigrinya speakers have demonstrated that leadership rooted in strong cultural identity can inspire change well beyond national borders. What makes the influence of Tigrinya speakers even more remarkable is the way they have managed to balance adaptation with preservation. In a globalized world where it is easy to lose one's heritage, Tigrinya-speaking families have fought to maintain a living link to their past. Children born in new countries are often taught Tigrinya at home, learning songs, proverbs, and stories alongside the languages of their new homeland. Community gatherings serve not just as social events, but as cultural classrooms, ensuring that the language remains alive and thriving in places thousands of miles from its birthplace. In doing so, Tigrinya speakers are influencing future generations to value diversity, to respect roots, and to understand that identity is not something to be traded away for acceptance, but something to be celebrated proudly. Another important dimension of this influence is found in education and scholarship. Across many universities and research institutions, Tigrinya-speaking academics have contributed groundbreaking work in fields such as history, linguistics, political science, and human rights. By documenting their experiences, analyzing conflicts, preserving oral histories, and promoting intercultural understanding, these scholars are ensuring that the voices of Tigrinya speakers are heard in global conversations that shape policy, philosophy, and the future of societies, in size and volume when considering influence. But the story of Tigrinya speakers teaches us something different, that authenticity, resilience, and cultural pride can carry farther than sheer numbers. Every poem recited, every story told, every child taught to say their first words in Tigrinya is an act of influence, an act of shaping a richer, more interconnected world. The influence of Tigrinya speaker the world often focuses on globally is not accidental. It is intentional, built through perseverance, love for tradition, and the deep understanding that while places may change and times may shift, the spirit carried in the language remains constant. It is a reminder that no matter where the winds of life may blow, a people rooted in their language and culture can continue to reach for the stars and touch them. Preserving a language is more than the preservation of words. It is the preservation of a people's soul. It is the careful safeguarding of dreams, memories, traditions, and wisdom accumulated over thousands of years. For Tigrinya, a language that has weathered countless storms and still stands tall, the responsibility to protect and nurture it for future generations is both a sacred duty and a profound opportunity. It is a chance not only to honor those who came before us, but to empower those who will come after us. For in today's rapidly changing world, languages are disappearing at an alarming rate. Globalization, migration, and the dominance of a few major languages threaten smaller, deeply rooted tongues like Tigrinya. But Tigrinya is not just any language. It is the voice of a resilient people who have carved their identity into the face of history. It is not a language that should quietly fade. It is a language that should rise, flourish, and continue to tell its powerful story for centuries to come. The process of preservation begins at home. It starts with parents speaking Tigrinya to their children, telling them bedtime stories in the language of their ancestors, teaching them to pray in the familiar rhythms of their culture. It happens when children are encouraged to answer back in Tigrinya, when songs, games, and everyday conversations are held in the language. These small daily acts are not small at all. They are the bricks with which a strong cultural fortress is built, one that can withstand the pressures of assimilation and forgetfulness. But preservation cannot end within the walls of our homes. It must extend into our communities. Community centers, cultural festivals, youth programs, and weekend language schools all play a crucial role. When children and teenagers see that Tigrinya is not just something spoken by their grandparents, but something vibrant, relevant, and celebrated, they are more likely to embrace it. Seeing role models, teachers, musicians, poets, activists, proudly using Tigrinya in public spaces shows young people that their language is a badge of honor, not a burden. As technology, often seen as a threat to minority languages, can also be a great ally in preservation. Today's generation lives online, and so must Tigrinya. Apps that teach Tigrinya, social media platforms where the language is spoken and celebrated, YouTube channels with Tigrinya storytelling, music videos, podcasts, all of these can breathe new life into the language. Through technology, the reach of Tigrinya can go far beyond traditional boundaries, connecting speakers across continents, inspiring pride, and creating a living archive that future generations can draw from. Formal education is another key pillar. Advocating for the inclusion of Tigrinya in school curricula, developing textbooks, children's literature, and educational programming in Tigrinya will ensure that the language remains a living, growing part of young people's daily lives. Even simple efforts like organizing storytelling nights, poetry readings, or writing competitions in Tigrinya can spark a love and ownership of the language among youth. When young people are given the tools and the space to create with Tigrinya, not just to memorize it, they take ownership. It becomes part of their identity, not just their heritage. Preservation also means remembering that a language evolves. The Tigrinya spoken by a teenager in London might sound different from that spoken by a grandmother in Mendefera. And that's okay. Languages live, breathe, and change with time. What matters most is not enforcing rigid standards, but keeping the heart of the language alive. Its spirit of storytelling, its depth of feeling, its rich imagery and wisdom. We must be open to the ways young people might remix, reshape, and reimagine Tigrinya while staying anchored to its essence. That flexibility is what will allow the language not just to survive. One of the most powerful reasons for preserving Tigrinya is what it offers to the world. In a time when people everywhere are searching for meaning, for connection, for authenticity, languages like Tigrinya carry treasures. They teach patience through proverbs. They teach endurance through history. They teach compassion, honor, and resilience through the very way stories are told, songs are sung, and prayers are spoken. To lose Tigrinya would not only be a loss for Eritreans and Ethiopians, it would be a loss for humanity. Preserving Tigrinya also brings healing. It gives displaced people a home within themselves, a sense of belonging that no passport or residency document can provide. For those whose families have been separated by borders or wars, maintaining the language becomes an act of memory and hope. It says, we are still here, we still carry each other in our words, we still believe in tomorrow. Ultimately, preserving Tigrinya is an act of love. Love for the elders who kept it alive in hard times. Love for the children who will shape its future. Love for a culture and a way of seeing the world that is too beautiful, too rich, too essential to be forgotten. It is an ongoing conversation between past, present, and future, a conversation that must never